بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. As you remember, we started a discussion about whether the general, the am, which has been modified, is still used in its haqiqi, its real sense, or it's now majaz, metaphorical sense. We discussed it in the case that the modifier is connected, al-khas al-muttasil, and the conclusion was it is haqiqah, because umum would be taking form after the modifier is also mentioned, and there's actually no change, because umum will be coming, everything being together. Like, for example, when you have, for example, made some cast, and then you have, melting, for example, metal, and you pour it down. So they come at the same time, and when it is cold, then it is fixed. So, the easiest condition is about al-khasul muttasil. What about al-khasul munfasil? That means that am is mentioned and umumiyya is formed in another session, another meeting. Even sometimes in the case of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, maybe for example you have one hadith from Imam Sadiq, another hadith from Imam Baqir, so it can be even coming from two people. Or you can have umum in the Quran, hadith, for example, from Prophet comes as khas. So, khas is munfasil. What about here? Can we still say it's haqiqah, the am has been used in its haqiqi sense or not? The answer is yes. Still it is used in its haqiqi sense. To be able to understand this, we have to distinguish between two types of dalala. So, if you understand this, then it will be easy. Sometimes the speaker uses the term and he means their real meanings and he is aware of them. He doesn't change his mind, he is not going to regret, he is not going to correct. He uses it in its in the real sense, but then he himself knows that he is going to make some changes. So for example, whenever there is khasa munfasil, in one session he says akram al-ulama, means all ulama, and when he says akram al-ulama, he knows what does this mean, and he means that. But still he knows that later he's going to exclude those who are not, for example, pious. So then what is the meaning in his mind? We say there are two things that he has meant. He has two types of wills. One is what we call al-iradatul isti'maliyya, the will which relates to the usage. So he uses the terms in what they are designated for. You remember the meaning of haqiqah? Isti'malul lafz fi ma wuda'a lah. So when he is saying akram al-ulama, he is using them in their real sense, in what they have been designated for, and he means that. But we have also al-iradatul jiddiyya, Jiddi means serious. His serious will, or you can say his ultimate, maybe it's better to say his ultimate will is not arm as arm, is something which is modified. And that is ulama who are pious. Those who are not pious are excluded. Okay? So, he is aware of this. He knows what he says, he means what he says, but at the same time, he has in his mind the intention of mentioning some conditions, some limits, some modifications. Okay? And sometimes this can be, for example, a case of ikhtibar, trial. Sometimes the speaker says something. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Ibrahim alayhi salam to slaughter Ismail. There was a command. And the command was used in its real sense. But was it the ultimate, the final will of God? The serious, the jaddi, the serious here, maybe in English, I don't know if it makes good sense or not. So it's not opposite to joking or humorous. It means final, ultimate. His ultimate, final will was not this. He wanted to see whether Ibrahim is obedient or not. Okay? So these are called al-awamir al-ikhtibariya. These are commands which are for trying and testing and examining. Okay? Or sometimes can be for example, joke. You ask someone to do something, and they say, no, I didn't mean it. I just wanted to see, for example. So there is al-iradatul isti'maliyah and there is al-iradatul jiddi. Al-iradatul isti'maliyah means what you have in your mind as a speaker when you use the terms. Al-iradatul jiddiyah is what is in your mind as the ultimate meaning. Okay?
So, Sheikh, sorry, if he says akram al-ulama al-atqiya, for example.
As muttasil?
Yeah, he said this in one session.
Okay.
So, if we apply the...
Then al-iradatul isti'maliyah and jiddiyah are the same.
In this case.
But if it is munfasil, al-iradatul isti'maliyah is am. Al-iradatul jiddiyah can be understood by taking both of them, am and khas, together. But this does not mean that the first sentence was used in metaphorical sense, because that was used as am, and that was al-iradatul isti'maliyah. And it was ma'na haqiqi, it was no problem. So when you have disconnected khas, al-khas al-munfasil, still there is no problem in saying that am is used in ma'na al-haqiqi. Why? Because what the speaker has meant, it is its designated meaning. Okay? Yes. Although he knows that the ultimate will would be a combination of am and khas. Yes?
You mentioned about testing. I forgot the Arabic word used for that.
Ikhtibar.
Ikhtibar.
Ikhtibar means like imtihan. Ikhtibar means to test. Is it clear?
Yes.
وأما الثاني أي المخصص المنفصل, when the modifier is disconnected. كما إذا قال المتكلم أكرم العلماء, respect the scholars, all the scholars, because الجمع المحلى بالألف واللام يدل على العموم. When the plural form comes with alif and lam, shows umum. Of course, it's معنى الظاهري. There can be exceptions. ثم قال في كلام مستقل. In another speech, another conversation, another meeting, he says لا تكرم العالم الفاسق. don't respect, or you may say لا يجب إكرام, is not necessary to show your respect to the alim who is sinful. فالتحقيق means the idea that after investigation we accept. التحقيق means that idea which is based on good research, is أن التخصيص لا يوجب المجازية في العام. Modification here to limit would not require or imply to be metaphorical. So am is not majaz, is not used in metaphorical sense. Why? The speaker has two wheels. الإرادة الاستعمالية الإرادة الجدية. الإرادة الاستعمالية هي من مقومات الاستعمال. One of the elements, one of the requirements, مقوم means like something that makes something, constitutes something. مقوم means like a foundation, a core. In isti'mal, when you use a term for a meaning, in isti'mal, in usage, you always must have something in your mind for which you use that term. الذي هو عبارة عن إطلاق اللفظ وإرادة معناه. You utter the term and you will its meaning. الإرادة الاستعمالية is always there, what the term is used for. يشترك فيه كل من يتكلم عن شعور. Anyone who speaks while understands, he means what he says, because maybe there is a person who is sleeping, and when he's sleeping he's speaking, or when someone is mad. No, we are talking about someone who speaks intentionally, understands with intelligence, with understanding. He can be joking, he can be testing, and he can be serious. But even the one who jokes means the terms, and that is how joke makes sense. Yeah? If he doesn't mean what he says, yes, his ultimate, really something else, but joke makes sense because you mean what you are saying according to al-iradatul istimaliyah. Actually, you know what that person is going to understand from this. Yes.
شيخنا, previously in the introductions we had المعنى التصوري and المعنى التصديقي.
Yeah.
التصوري is just a linguistic meaning. التصديقي has conditions, as in he has to know the language, he has to be serious, understand قرينة. So here seriousness is being removed from that condition. Here it says whether he's serious or not.
Yeah. So instead of serious, maybe you can say ultimate. So even in al-iradatul istimaliyah, again it is tasdiqi, because this is what that person has meant by saying when he says akram al-ulama, even if he later says something else, but when he says akram al-ulama, he means this. If you remember, we said, for example, the difference between al-ma'na tasawwuri wa tasdiqi can be appearing when a person who is sleeping says something, because he doesn't mean it. But here he means this, so you can say that he meant this, but he meant it temporarily, or he meant it provisionally. He has not meant it necessarily as the ultimate meaning. So there is no difference between hazl. Hazl is opposite to jed. Hazl means joking. Yeah? There is a hadith that no one tastes Iman unless he refrains from lying, whether it is serious or humorous. حتى يترك الكذب جده وحزله. Hazil is the one who makes joke, who is not serious, is humorous. Mumtahin is the one who tests. Wadhil jid, who is serious. So whether it's not serious or is testing, in all these cases, he has meant to use these terms in their designated meaning.
Just one clarification, please. Previously, when we were talking about al-ma'na al-tasdiqi, and we said one of the conditions is he must not be joking. So over there, what we meant was that he didn't ever intend this meaning at all. It was simply joking. So there was never any sort of seriousness involved. Whereas here, there is a temporary meaning intended at first. Is this the difference?
Sorry, repeat please.
The ma'na tasdiqi, one of the conditions is he must not be joking. So when we say that about ma'na tasdiqi, do we mean he maybe he said it, but he never actually ever intended that meaning?
No. Ma'na tasdiqi, even in joke there can be ma'na tasdiqi, but not as the ultimate. Ma'na tasawwuri is just something that comes to your mind by hearing the terms. Even if you hear it from a machine, even if you hear it from an animal, from a bird, a parrot, ma'na tasawwuri comes to your mind. But to say that he has meant it, that's tasdiqi. Yeah. ثم إن له وراء تلك الإرادة إرادة أخرى. Beyond that will, he has another will. وهي ما يعبر عنها بالإرادة الجدية. And this is what is called serious will. فتارة, sometimes they don't match. They don't belong to the same thing. تارة لا تتعلق الإرادة الجدية بنفس ما تعلقت به الإرادة الاستعمالية. Sometimes the serious will would not belong to what the usage will has belonged to. Like Al-Hazil, the one who is making joke. The one who is making joke, he doesn't really mean what he says, although he has al-iradatul istimaliyah. So he knows what this person is going to understand from this, and he says this, and he is aware of that, and he means this, but means it not seriously. Is it clear? وَالْآمِرُ امْتِحَانًا, or the one who commands in order to test and try. So, تارة لا تتعلق الإرادة الجدية بنفس ما تعلقت به الإرادة الاستعمالية، وأخرى تتعلق الأولى بنفس ما تعلقت به الثانية بلا استثناء وتخصيص. And sometimes they are the same. So, the second, which is jiddi and istimali, are the same. Like when you have am, and this am is left to be am, there is no mukhassis, and am is meant, there is no joke, there is no exam, there is no takhsis. You say am akram al-ulama, and you mean akram al-ulama, for example, no takhsis. The second, so is clear. The third, please listen carefully to the difference between the first and the third. In the first, al-iradatul jiddiyya is different from al-iradatul isti'maliyya. He says something, but he's joking. He doesn't mean it. Or he says something, but it's for examination, test. The third is that he says something and he doesn't mean it completely, and he doesn't want to change it completely. He just means a part of it seriously. So he first brings something which is general. And he's not going to give up totally, meaning that, but he's going to compromise about part of it. Part of it is excluded. Okay? So, وثالثة means تارة ثالثة تتعلق الإرادة الجدية ببعض ما تعلقت به الإرادة الاستعمالية. It belongs to part of what الإرادة الاستعمالية has belonged to. وهذا كالعامل مخصص. The arm which has been modified. وعند ذاك يشير إلى ذلك البعض. And here, then he refers to that baz, that part which has been meant, بدليل مستقل, with an independent, reference. ويكشف المخصص. The modifier discovers the fact that even from the beginning, the speaker had only in his mind that part which is remaining, that part which remains underarm. ويكشف المخصص عن تضيق الإرادة الجدية. The serious will or ultimate will was from the beginning narrow. تضيق, it was narrow. من رأس, from the beginning. على خلاف الإرادة الاستعمالية. Unlike إرادة استعمالية which was arm, which was general.
Sheikh, can you give an example for this one?
Yeah. So you say أقرب العلماء means all ulama. Then you say لا تكرم الفساق من العلماء. So this shows that أكرم العلماء is still meant. So it's still meant, but not completely. And it's not like joke which is not meant at all. So it's not 100% meant, is not 100% not meant, is partially meant. Yes.
Does this mean that the two statements have to come, has to be munfasil? Or can you have one that's muttasil?
We are talking about munfasil. If it is muttasil, then it's easier. If it is muttasil, then we said it's easier. This is about munfasil.
Now for the third one, can you have muttasil?
Yeah, we can have muttasil, but
Discussions on
it's easier, because if it is muttasil, then umum is coming with khas, so there is no need to differentiate between because even al-iradatul istimaliyah will be khas. So muttasil doesn't come under this. Yes.
Can we say that it's separated because all of ulama, the hope is that they were already worthy of haram, but because the reality is not like that, that's why a separate sentence has been written? Could we say it?
No, whether to say it separately or together, it's up to the speaker. Both of them can be correct. It's not a particular reason that why this has been said, in a disconnected way. It can be connected, can be disconnected. وَعَلَى ضَوْءِ ذَلِكَ, under the light of this, yes.
Sorry, like we understood the meaning of this, but can it be, for example, respect all ulama, can it only be the meaning of the will of usage? Can it be understood only as that, as will of usage only, as a complete meaning?
So it's the will of usage plus part of it is also the final will.
That I got it, the part of it. But can it only be the will of usage totally? Or it can never be totally the will of usage?
absolutely.
In munfasil, it's totally will of usage. But why? What you mean? What do you mean by totally? You mean that there is no jadiyah, or you mean all of it is?
All of it. The entire meaning is from this sentence only. From this part, you get respect all ulama.
So this is al-iradatul istimaliya. Then ulama who are not fasiq are also seriously meant or ultimately meant. على ضوء ذلك يكفي للمقنن أن يلقي كلامه بصورة عامة. Under the light of what we said, it is enough for lawmaker, legislator, muqannin, the one who makes qanun, is lawmaker, legislator. It's sufficient for him to yulqi. Yulqi means to throw, to drop, but here means to present, for example, to say his word in a general way, بصورة عامة. ويقول, he can say in a general way, أكرم كل عالم. ويستعمل الجملة في معناها الحقيقي, and he really is using أكرم and كل and عالم in their real sense. من دون أن يستعملها في معنى مضيق, without using them in a narrower sense. No, he's using them in the meaning for which they are designated, in the sense that they are designated for. But ثم يشير بدليل مستقل, then by an independent reference, evidence, he says that my final or ultimate will was not exactly every alim. There was a reservation. ثم يشير بدليل مستقل إلى ما لم تتعلق به إرادته الجدية كالفاصل. Then by using a kind of independent dalil, he says that my serious will has not belonged to this. كالفاصل مثلا. لا تكرم الفاصل. وأكثر المخصصات الواردة في الشرع من هذا القبيل. Most of the modifiers in Sharia do not come together. They are said in different hadiths, or for example in the Quran and hadith. They are munfasil. Hey sunnah. For example, this is just an example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين. This was when the legislation for prohibition of riba was made. And maybe some people had already been engaged in riba, and something, they had taken, and part of the interest was remaining. Allah says, leave it. Whatever has remained is remaining, leave it. Okay? So, riba was prohibited. Any type of riba. But we have in some hadith some exclusion, some modification. For example, between father and child, there can be riba. Yeah? Between husband and wife, there can be riba. Okay?
Which sense, Shaykh?
Pardon?
In which sense it can be?
In a good sense.
Now, if you
There's always interest between a parent and a child and husband and wife.
Pardon?
There's always interest between a father and a child and a husband and a wife.
Different type of interest it is.
Not percentage, there's interest generally.
Yeah.
Different interest.
So, this exclusion of riba, usually between father and child, is not mentioned in the same ayah. It's munfasil. Or between husband and wife is munfasil. Actually, in the case of Sharia, most of the mukhassasat are munfasil. Yeah. So there can be muttasil, but very little in the case of Sharia. Because, when you are making law, normally it comes in two stages. First, you pass the general law, then details come later. Even in, governments in countries like this, the parliament passes a law about something, but then the government or the relevant part of the government makes
Amendments.
some,
Bylaws.
detailed, or bylaws, some detailed, for example, instructions about what should we do, for example. For example, they may say that we are going to, for example, have this trade deal with this country. Or, for example, I don't know, free, for example, trade. But then lots of details can be coming later. This is very common.
Like Sheikh, now, like Brexit will happen, then the details are
The
coming
details come.
in a year.
So, this does not mean that is used in majazi sense, in a metaphor. No, it's used in its real sense, although we know that there would be some exclusions, some modifications. Yes.
Sheikh, this is a very important point that comes here, and this example given in the text is actually a prime example of the question that I had in mind, and that is, we have something in the Quran.
Yes.
So, and then we have a hadith which modifies it.
Yes.
So the problem is that does this not contradict, for example, the hadith that say whatever comes different from the Quran from us, throw it against
Yes.
the walls? How do we balance
Yeah, very
this?
good question. Inshallah, we discuss this later, and also we discussed it in the previous book. Takhsis is not a type of contradiction. When hadith says whatever contradicts Quran, throw it away or throw it at the wall, that is contradiction, means something that cannot be understood by al-jam'ul urfi. You say al-jam'ul urfi. Means there is no way that you can have a common sense understanding that brings them together. And khas can easily be put together. Every common sense, understands that these are compatible. So, and khas, mutlaq and muqayyad, they are not considered as contradiction because there is jam'a urfi. But if there is tabayun, or if there is umum khusus min wajh, even umum khusus min wajh is a problem when they overlap, because then there are two areas that they contradict. Yes.
There's one question here. If interest has been allowed between a husband and a wife,
Yes.
and a father and a child, it means we're putting in the category of non-believers who are not protected by the Muslims. Because non-believers are protected by the Muslims, we can't charge them interest. We can only charge, so we are putting our own wives and children in this category. Does it make sense? It doesn't make rational sense, as far as I think. I don't know. I would
So before you answer
your
that,
opinion.
Yes.
when you said that in the Quran it says riba is not permitted, and then is it the Quran which says riba between father and child is permitted?
No.
No, it's the hadith.
Yeah.
So how do you, like taking from Hamid's question, how do you compatibilize these two situations where the hadith is actually saying something which is totally against the Quran?
It's not against.
Which the Quran says no to riba of any form.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. As we have it in, as I said, in every country, you have general law and you have lots of detailed laws or bylaws. It's very common. If a speaker, even if it is one speaker, says something in general and later he brings modifications, do you say you are contradicting yourself?
Well, it's not the same speakership.
No, because we consider them the same in the sense that either it is mentioned by Allah in the Quran or it is the will of God expressed by the Prophet, for example. But it's still, both is will of God. It's not two different sources.
Provided
Whatever you say, for one speaker, you can say it here. It can be two imams, it can be Rasulullah and Imam, it can be Quran and Hadith. But we consider them as one source. As one source. Even now, in the UK, for example, if a judgment has been made, a ruling has been made, a verdict has been made in one court by one judge, then another one, 10 years or maybe even 100 years later by another judge, they bring them together and then they would come with a conclusion based on these two verdicts. Because, here, all the previous cases, are considered. So that when the judge wants to make a judgment, considers all the previous cases as his resource.
Is this the same understanding between Shia and Sunni?
Yeah, no difference.
No difference.
No difference.
They also agree that husbands can charge the wife.
Because, if you consider, for example, in the Quran, for example, what we have about wuzu. There are so many conditions and details about wuzu that are not mentioned in the Quran. About salat, about zakat, about hajj. Actually, not only there is no problem, actually we expect lots of details to come later. There is nothing, that is unexpected. We expect that there must be lots of khas coming later.
I agree with that. For example, Salah. Say Salah, pray namaz.
Yeah.
But Rasulullah told us how many rakats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
So,
then
so this
that
is
that's
taxis.
So that's the methodology. It's telling us how to do what is being told to do.
Yeah.
But here, when we talk about riba, the example that you gave, it's totally contradicting the detail, it's contradicting the main command.
No, it's not
The
contradictory.
hadith also say don't pray in this case, don't pray in this case. Or pray
Yeah.
like this. For example, pray to Allah when you go. This seems like it's going against the Quran.
For example, when a lady is in her period, she doesn't fast. It's a khas.
Exception.
It's an exception.
So it's an exception.
So this is bringing a modification to the ayah which says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam. The modification can come in the Quran. For example, when you are traveling, is in mention Quran. When you are ill, in the Quran. But there can be modifications which come in hadith. No problem. ثم يرخص في السنة الشريفة ويخصص حرمة الربا بغير الوالد والولد والزوج والزوج. This is limited, is modified in hadith, in sunnah, and is restricted to the prohibition of riba usury when it's not between father and child or between husband and wife.
So,
Here-
example of this.
Pardon?
Can you give a situation of such?
This
incident?
is the example.
No, but this is just a mentioning. But I mean, example of interest or riba between father and child or husband and wife. Is there any example? Is there any?
Yeah, you can take riba from your father or child. That's example. There can be millions of examples. I don't know what example you want. This by itself is example. Then if you want example for examples, there can be billions of examples.
So what it
Any person in the world who takes riba from his father or child is an example.
So what it means is that
I don't know if I
a son
understood your question.
A son can charge interest to his father.
Pardon?
A son can charge interest to his father. That's what it's saying.
Yeah. Or father to son.
Oh, okay. So as straightforward as that.
Yeah.
Because no harm comes out of this.
Don't be like that, Mustafa.
Pardon?
No.
This can have some explanation. Of course, Allah knows, even we cannot say Allah knows better.
Yes.
He knows and we don't know. But maybe because of very close and intimate relation that exists between a father and child, it's as if there is no charging. It's not going to a different, pocket. If it is coming from child to the father, so it belongs to the father. It's from father to child, father is happy. Yeah, it's like the same pocket. And also shows that husband and wife are also very close. So, of course, it's much better that if they don't charge each other. But sometimes, you may have a father who is old and cannot work, he has some money. And therefore, in this way, he can make some income, for example. But he doesn't want to charge other people. Anyway, we don't know, Allah knows better, but these are some exceptions or some modifications for a general ruling which is mentioned in the Quran about prohibition of riba. Now we move on to the third chapter. The third chapter actually is not very difficult now. If you understood the second chapter, this is not very difficult. And if you didn't understand the second chapter, then this helps you inshallah to understand it. The question is, Hujjiyatul Amil Mukhassas fil Baqi. When Am is modified, can we refer to it and use it as a reference for remaining cases? Imagine if Am was this much. We have millions of people. Am was saying, Akramil ulama. So this much is covered by Am. Okay? Part of it is excluded. We know that. We know for certain, for example, Fusaq are excluded. Then someone may say, ulama, maybe not all ulama, maybe it's, for example, religious scholars, not physicists and chemists, for example. Can we say Am is Zahirun fil umum and includes any alim? It doesn't need to be religious alim or Muslim alim. Okay? If you say, no, we cannot use Am because Am is already affected. Already part of Am has been taken out. Ulama say, no. Even if part of it is taken out, Umum is there. So with respect to the rest, it's, like for example, I give you this example. Imagine if there is a country which has, 20 provinces. If one province is taken by another country or has become independent or is invaded, the laws of that country would not apply necessarily in that province because it has become independent under another law. But then, what about remaining provinces? Everything remains as normal. They follow the same law. You cannot say because we know already one province has left, then we don't know what to do about the rest. So, ulama has many types. One part is excluded, but with respect to the rest, it has zuhur, and that zuhur is hujjah. If you have any doubt, you can refer to that zuhur. Okay? So, this is the question. If you understand the question, the answer is not difficult. Hujjiyatul Am al-Mukhassas fil Baqi. The general which has been modified is hujjah with respect to what remains under Am. إذا ورد عام وتبعه التخصيص. When Am has come and is followed by modification. ثم شككنا, then we doubt في ورود تخصيص آخر عليه غير ما علم. Then we say maybe another group is excluded. Fusaq are definitely excluded. Maybe there is another exclusion. Say no, you don't need to worry. Follow the zuhur of this, which is umumiyya, with respect to the rest, that zuhur is there. ثم شككنا في ورود تخصيص آخر عليه means على العام غير ما علم. Another تخصيص that maybe we don't know. There is a تخصيص and we don't know. فهل يكون العام حجة فيه أو لا? Is عام حجة with respect to the rest or not? وهذا ما يعبر عنه في الكتب الأصولية. This is what has been called in the books on أصول الفقه هل العام المخصص حجة في الباقي أو لا. They discuss it under this title. مثلا إذا ورد النص بحرمة الربا. Okay, we just mentioned there is a nas, there is a text which says riba is haram. ثم علمنا بخروج الربا بين الوالد والولد عن تحت العموم. We know that between father and child there is no problem. So this is excluded. Okay? Between husband and wife, for example, is excluded. Between Muslim and Kafir Harbi is excluded. Okay? For example. In one direction. Now, question. What about between brother and sister? Maybe someone says, I don't know, and because that arm is already modified, we cannot refer to arm. We say no. Although that arm is modified, but we only give up that much we know. The rest remains under arm. Because arm is hujjah. Whatever is known to be coming out of it, okay. But whatever is not known to come out remains under that umumiyya. مثلا إذا ورد النص بحرمة الربا. There is a nas. Nas means text. Yeah? That riba is haram. Prohibition of riba. ثم علمنا بخروج الربا بين الوالد والولد عن تحت العموم. We know that it is excluded. Riba between father and child is excluded. وشككنا and doubt في خروج السائر الأقربين. We have doubt about whether other relatives are excluded, like brother and sister. فهل العام حجة في المشكوك? Is am hujjah with respect to brother and sister or not? We say it's hujjah.
It is allowed.
Pardon?
It is allowed.
No. So hurma remains. So umum of hurma remains. So it's not allowed. والمختار حجيته في المشكوك. The selected, the preferred view is that it is hujjah with respect to what is obvious. لأن العام المخصص مستعمل في معناه الحقيقي بالإرادة الاستعمالية. Because that arm has been used in its own general sense. فلو ورد عليه التخصيص, if it has been followed by a modifier, فإنما يخصص الإرادة الجدية. Only إرادة جدية is limited, but the إرادة استعمالية is عام and it remains powerful or intact with respect to the rest. Yeah. So you have a question?
It's Maulana excluded because of shirk or because of no nas about this type.
No, this doubt can be treated, can be sorted out by saying that we have arm and arm has zuhur. Zuhur is hujjah. How we have arm? Because when arm is said, its literal meaning, its linguistic meaning, its al-iradat al-istimaliyah is formed, has taken shape. It's not that khas breaks it altogether. Khas doesn't break it altogether. Khas only takes part of it. The remaining is intact. Yes.
Here he says that when we have takhsis, then we have the irada al-jaddiya, but the irada al-istimaliya remains as it is for the other cases. But I thought what remains is al-irada al-jiddiyah.
Okay. But because you have doubt, you don't know is al-iradatul jiddiyah including this part or not. So through al-iradatul istimaliyah, you can discover that the rest is also meant. You want to understand that iradatul jiddiyah includes here or not?
There's one still, but I still am unhappy with that question.
Yes.
The answer, because we have been told in the Quran that we should look after our parents
Yeah.
and we should look after our brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how can we, instead of, they should, a son should never have to take a loan from the father because he should look after him without any problem.
Sure.
And so should the father look after the son. So should the husband look after this. Quran has ordered this. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
So how can these things ever occur that they'll have to give a loan to each other and they'll take interest? How can it ever occur?
You can teach yourself.
You know, if your father has money, okay, and then he lends you the money and asks you to pay extra, is it a problem?
But if he's following the Quranic injunction, he should look after his son very well, and he shouldn't ask for
Yeah,
interest.
his son is not a young person. His son is also having business. He wants to, for example,
Invest in the building.
make investment, whatever.
Oh,
And father has also money,
I see.
so
This is 50,000 pounds.
there is no problem here.
I see.
Of course, the relation should be as good that they don't talk about these things. They just give money to each other. But if it happens,
Yes.
and if, for example, the father needs money,
Yeah.
is it better that he takes it, or because he cannot take it, he doesn't lend him money?
I think the
Because
son should
sometimes,
give it willingly.
sometimes then they may not even give it.
I think the son should give in willingly.
Should is a moral issue, but sometimes this doesn't. For example,
Another legal issue.
his wife says, if you want just to give your father money without charging him, I don't accept.
Get rid of the wife.
So
Get rid of the wife.
maybe to please his wife or her husband,
Why
So,
should
so
it
there can be
be-
millions of cases.
Indeed, yes.
This is
Which could apply to everybody.
this is not a recommendation. It's not that we say,
Yes.
Go and charge it.
you should do this. We are just saying that if the worst happens and you have to take interest from your child or father or husband, then it's permissible. But we are not recommending, we are not making this a norm and a habit, just we are saying if the worst happens and this is the only way you can help each other, okay, no problem.
So, Sheikh, is it something which is agreed upon between our scholars, or is it?
It seems so, yeah.
Is it like that?
As far as I know, I don't know exception, because there are,
I've had Ayatollah Uthman Tahrani, if I'm not mistaken, has written a book about 500 fiqh contradictions with the Quran, and I think he removes all these exclusions, like this one in particular. So for him, for example, no riba even for the son, because hadith here cannot have exclusion for Quran.
no, if the principle is that there is no takhsis in hadith, then the whole fiqh has to collapse. Sunni Shia fiqh would collapse if you want to remove hadith. Because it's not only 500, there are thousands of rulings that we learn from hadith. We have to make sure, inshallah we'll talk about it. We have to make sure that that hadith is authentic. Otherwise, because Quran has only about 500 ayatul ahkam. Only 500. And they are very general. We don't expect the Quran to be a book of fiqh. The details come in hadith. Inshallah, we'll talk about it later. So, فالإرادة الاستعمالية باقية على حالها لا تمس كرامتها. It remains as it is, and its respect, its honor is not touched. Means it's still effective. وَالْأَصْلُ الْعُقَلَاءِ. The rational principle is this, that al-iradatul istimaliyah matches or corresponds to al-iradatul jiddiyah, except when you know that they don't match. So what is proved to be a case of difference between the two, okay, you accept. You know that this much is excluded. But for the remaining, we assume that al-iradatul jaddiyah is the same as al-iradatul istimaliyah. So you know that riba between brother and sister was included in al-ma'na al-istimali. So we say, okay, jaddi should be also the same, because we don't have any reason to think otherwise. وهذه أي حجية العام المخصص في الباقي هي الثمرة للفصل السابق. This is a fruit, an outcome of the previous chapter, the discussion that we had before. We said al-aam al-mukhassas is used in its ma'na al-haqiqi, and ma'na al-haqiqi is hujjah. So you follow al-aam with respect to anything which is remaining under aam after takhsis, after exclusion. The next discussion is very easy. Al-faslu al-rabi'. How much time we have? 10 minutes? Okay. Okay. This is very, very good discussion actually. We said sometimes a speaker says something but brings details later. Okay? Question. When we hear something from a speaker or when we read a text which is am, can I start applying it and following it, or I have to look for possible modifications? So do I need to do fahs? Fahs means search. Do I need to look for khas, or I just follow al-am? In normal conversation, people normally, when they want to modify, they say it in the same majlis. But if you have a lawmaker, then there is a great chance that they don't say everything in the same. Actually, that might be the norm, that they don't say everything in the same place. In the case of Islamic Sharia, is the same. We don't expect all the details to come together with the same text that mentions the principle. Therefore, when you come across a hadith or ayah which is am, you cannot issue fatwa without searching for any potential khas. So our fuqaha, whenever they find a hadith or a text from the Quran which is am, they look in relevant places. Of course, for example, based on your experience, you know that, for example, if this hadith is about Hajj, where you should look for potential modifications. Yeah, you don't need, for example, to look for potential modification in the books about akhlaq or aqaid, for example, or other chapters of fiqh, for example, if you are sure, of course. Because sometimes maybe something about here is mentioned in another section. And this is why Ayatollah Burujerdi had the idea of this book, which later, completed after him. He started Jami'ul Ahadith. And that was to bring together the hadiths which were divided and distributed into different, So for example, some ulama like Shaykh Amili, they did great job in collecting and classifying hadiths. Okay? This part of hadith is about this issue, they put it in this chapter. Another part is about another issue, put it in another chapter. But Ayatollah Burji had the idea that still we need also to be able to have all the hadiths together, because something mentioned before or after can affect our understanding of this part. Okay? So, anyway, when a faqih has a text in front of him which is he would never quickly issue fatwa based on the umum of that text. He looks in every possible, every relevant place for a potential khas. If he doesn't find it after investigation, then he follows umum. But before investigation, he doesn't issue fatwa according to Okay? The same is with, legal experts, lawyers, for example. They never take, one sentence of the law. There are lots of details that come in their own place. Inna daydan al-uqala. Daydan means habit, custom. It's not didan. Didan in Farsi means seeing. This is daydan. The habit of rational people, uqala, and I very much want to see uqala. إن ديدن الأقلاء في المحاورات العرفية, in their customary conversations, هو الاتيان بكل ما له دخل في كلامهم ومقاصدهم. Ordinary rational people, not lawmakers, in their conversation they try to bring everything together so that they make sure that you understand what they want. من غير فرق بين القضايا الجزئية أو الكلية, whether it is particular or universal thing, they bring it together. ولذا يتمسك بظواهر كلامهم من دون أي تربص. This you can appeal, you can follow the zuhur without waiting, without hesitation. You don't need to go around and look for other things that they might have said here or there. أما الخطابات القانونية, but legal conversations التي ترجع إلى جعل القوانين وسن السنن, which refer to making laws and legislating, سواء أكانت دولية أم إقليمية, can be international, can be regional. فقد جرت, or it can be about one government, it can be about different regions. فقد جرت سيرة العقلاء على خلاف ذلك. The habit of uqala is different. Uqala here act differently. Uqala, when they speak on their own behalf as one person, they try to say everything together. But uqala, when they have a legal system, then that's different. فتراهم, you see them, يذكرون العام والمطلق في باب والمخصص والمقيد في باب آخر. You see them that they say the general or the absolute in one place, and they bring the modifier or the limited one later. Or it can be even different time. They bring am or mutlaq in one time and mention the modifier another time. وَقَدْ سَلَكَ التَّشْرِيعُ الْإِسْلَامِي هَذَا النَّحْوَ. Islamic legislation also has followed the same path. فتجد ورود العموم في القرآن أو كلام النبي والمخصص والمقيد في كلام الأوصياء. For example, you find or mutlaq is in the Quran or hadith of the Prophet, and khas comes in the hadith of the successors of the Prophet. وَمَا هَذَا شَأْنُهُ. And when something is like this, مَا هَذَا شَأْنُهُ, what has such condition, لا يصح عند العقلاء التمسك بالعموم قبل الفحص عن مخصصاته. So when something has this condition, uqala say you cannot use arm and appeal to arm without investigating مخصصاته, its modifiers. Or you cannot act according to mutlaq before investigating muqayyadatehi, what can limit mutlaq. So you have to look in different chapters of the collections of hadith and see if there is any mukhassis or any muqayyad. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.